You know what it feels like when your entire world crumbles while you're fighting for your life? I found out the hard way, lying in an ICU bed in a Denver hospital, hooked up to more machines than I could count. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me start from the beginning, because this story isn't just about betrayal. It's about discovering strength I never knew I had. 3 years ago, I was your typical suburban wife. 36 years old, married for 12 years to Derek, living in a 4-bedroom house in Aurora, Colorado. I worked part-time as a bookkeeper for a local dental practice, while Derek climbed the corporate ladder at a tech startup downtown. We didn't have kids yet. Derek always said we should wait until he made senior management, until we had more savings, until the timing was perfect. I believed in us. I believed in him. Every dinner party where he'd charm everyone with his stories, every company event where I'd stand by his side in my carefully chosen dress, every Sunday morning when we'd drink coffee on our deck overlooking the Rockies. I thought we were building something beautiful together. Then came that Tuesday in March. I was driving home from King Soopers with a trunk full of groceries when a pickup truck ran a red light. They told me later that my Honda Accord flipped 3 times. I don't remember any of it. What I do remember is waking up 5 days later in the ICU. My sister Emma holding my hand, tears streaming down her face. The first thing I asked for was Derek. Emma's face changed. That subtle shift that told me something was wrong before she even opened her mouth. She said he'd been there the first day, but had to handle some emergency at work. I understood. That was Derek. Always responsible, always taking care of business. But days passed, and he didn't come. Emma kept making excuses, her eyes avoiding mine. My best friend Sarah would change the subject whenever I mentioned him. Even the nurses seemed uncomfortable when I asked if my husband had called. It was on day 10, when I was finally stable enough to hold my phone, that I found out the truth. Derek had sent an email. Not a text, not a call, an email. Like I was a client he was firing. Jennifer, it started. Not Jen, not Honey, not any of the pet names he'd used for 12 years. Jennifer, I need to be honest with you. This accident has made me realize that life is too short to live without authenticity. I've fallen in love with someone else. Her name is Melissa, and she's my soulmate. I know the timing is terrible, but I can't pretend anymore. I've filed for divorce. My lawyer will be in touch. I've already moved my things out of the house. Focus on getting better. Derek. I read it 3 times before it sank in. While I was unconscious, fighting infection, learning to breathe without a ventilator, my husband of 12 years had packed up his life and moved in with his 24-year-old yoga instructor, Melissa, the one he'd introduced me to at his company Christmas party 4 months earlier, assuring me she was just a friend from the gym. Emma was there when I finally broke down. Not pretty tears. Ugly, body-shaking sobs that made my broken ribs scream in protest. The nurses had to sedate me because my heart rate spiked so high they thought I might have another cardiac event. How? I kept asking Emma. How could he do this while I'm lying here? Emma, bless her heart, was ready to commit murder. She showed me the Facebook posts. Derek and Melissa, already public, already posting couple selfies and inspirational quotes about following your heart and true love finding a way. While I was relearning how to walk, they were posting sunset photos from Vail. The divorce papers arrived 2 weeks later, delivered to my hospital room like a sick joke. Derek wanted the house sold, assets split 50-50, no alimony because I was capable of supporting myself. 12 years reduced to paperwork and division of property. My recovery took 3 months. 3 months of physical therapy, learning to walk without a limp, dealing with the nerve damage in my left arm. 3 months of watching Derek's new life unfold on social media through the screenshots Emma couldn't help but show me. Melissa had moved into our house. She was redecorating our bedroom. She was using my kitchen, my garden, my life. But something happened during those 3 months. Between the physical therapy sessions and the sleepless nights, between the lawyer meetings and the lonely moments, a different Jennifer started emerging. Not the one who had spent 12 years making herself smaller to fit into Derek's vision of the perfect wife. Not the one who'd given up her career advancement because Derek said one ambitious person per household was enough. The day I was discharged, I stood in Emma's guest bedroom with 2 suitcases of belongings, all that was left of my former life, and made a decision. I wasn't going to crumble. I wasn't going to beg. I was going to become someone Derek would regret leaving for the rest of his life, but I'd do it quietly. No drama, no public scenes, just focused, deliberate transformation. I started small. Found a studio apartment in Capitol Hill, nothing fancy, but mine. Got my old job back, but this time full-time. My boss, Dr. Martinez, had held the position open, hoping I'd return. I threw myself into work with an intensity I'd never had before. Arrived first, left last. Took online courses in advanced bookkeeping, tax preparation, QuickBooks certification. Within 6 months, I wasn't just keeping books. I was managing the entire financial operation of 3 dental practices in the Denver metro area. Dr. Martinez made me operations manager. The salary wasn't huge, but it was mine. Earned by my own ambition, not granted by a husband's success. I started working out, not to get Derek back, but to reclaim my body after the accident. Physical therapy turned into Pilates. Pilates turned into strength training. My physical therapist, Marcus, became my trainer, then my friend. He'd survived his own devastating divorce and understood the particular fury that makes you want to transform yourself from the inside out. The divorce was finalized on a rainy Thursday in October. Derek didn't even show up, sent his lawyer instead. I got half the house proceeds, enough to put a down payment on a small condo in Washington Park. My own space, chosen by me, decorated to my taste. No more beige walls because Derek thought colors were too emotional. I painted the living room deep teal and hung the abstract art he'd always hated. A year passed. I rarely thought about Derek anymore, except when Emma would occasionally mention seeing him and Melissa around town. Apparently, the honeymoon phase had worn off. Melissa had quit her yoga instructor job to become an influencer, which meant Derek was financing her lifestyle blog about mindful living and authentic love. The same Derek who used to complain about my Target runs was now funding professional photo shoots and designer workout clothes. My transformation continued quietly. I got my CPA license, something I'd started before marriage but never finished because Derek said it wasn't necessary. Started taking on private clients for tax preparation. Built a reputation as the go-to financial advisor for small healthcare practices in Denver. 18 months after the accident, I launched my own consulting firm. Nothing flashy, just me, my expertise, and a website Emma's husband designed for free. Within 6 months, I had 12 clients and needed to hire an assistant. Within a year, I had an office in Cherry Creek and 3 employees. I was at a healthcare industry mixer in downtown Denver when fate decided to be ironic. It was a swanky event at the Brown Palace Hotel, the kind Derek used to drag me to when he wanted to network. I was there legitimately now as CEO of Morrison Financial Consulting, chatting with potential clients about tax strategies for medical practices. I saw him before he saw me, Derek, in his favorite navy suit, the one I'd picked out for his 35th birthday. He looked older, tired. Melissa was beside him in a dress that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage, scrolling through her phone while he tried to network. Then our eyes met across the room. I watched the recognition dawn, followed by shock. The Jennifer he'd left bleeding in an ICU bed was gone. In her place stood someone he'd never met. Confident, successful, wearing a designer suit I'd bought with my own money, holding court with a group of Denver's medical elite. He started walking over, dragging a reluctant Melissa behind him. I could have walked away, but I didn't. I stood my ground, smiled politely, and waited. "Jennifer," he said, that familiar voice now strange to my ears. "You look incredible." "Thank you, Derek," I replied, my voice steady. "I don't believe we've met," I said to Melissa, extending my hand even though we both knew this was a lie. "Jennifer Morrison, Morrison Financial Consulting." Melissa's handshake was limp, her smile forced. Up close, I could see the strain. The Instagram perfect life wasn't so perfect after all. "Your own company," Derek said, unable to hide his surprise. "That's, wow." "Yes, it's been quite a journey. Amazing what you can accomplish when you focus on yourself," I said, maintaining eye contact. "And you? Still at the startup?" His face tightened. Emma had mentioned the startup had folded 6 months ago. He was job hunting, struggling in a market flooded with younger, hungrier tech workers. "I'm exploring opportunities," he said, the phrase every unemployed person uses. "Actually, Jennifer, I've been meaning to reach out. I wanted to apologize." "No need," I interrupted smoothly. "Water under the bridge. Besides, you did me a favor. If you hadn't left, I never would have discovered what I was capable of." That's when Dr. Raymond Chen approached. one of Denver's most successful plastic surgeons, and my newest high-profile client. "Jennifer, there you are," he said, placing a friendly hand on my shoulder. "I want you to meet my colleague from Swedish Medical Center. I've been raving about what you've done for my practice's finances." I excused myself from Derek and Melissa with a polite nod, leaving them standing there as I was whisked away into a conversation about corporate tax structures and investment strategies. But not before I heard Melissa hiss to Derek, "You said she was just a part-time bookkeeper?" The best part? I genuinely didn't care about their reaction. This wasn't about them anymore. It hadn't been for a long time. Word travels fast in Denver's professional circles. Within a week, I'd received 3 LinkedIn messages from Derek. Professional networking requests, he claimed, but the subtext was clear. The man who'd found me insufficient while I was dying now wanted to reconnect with the successful version of me. I didn't respond. Not out of anger, but out of indifference. The opposite of love isn't hate, it's indifference, and I'd finally reached that blessed state. 6 months later, Emma told me Derek and Melissa had split. She'd left him for a cryptocurrency investor she met at a wellness retreat in Sedona. Derek was living in a 1-bedroom apartment in Lakewood, trying to rebuild his career, his confidence shattered. The man who talked about soulmates and authenticity had been left for someone with a bigger wallet and better Instagram opportunities. Meanwhile, my business continued to grow. I brought on 2 partners, expanded into financial planning for medical professionals. We moved into a larger office space, hired 6 more employees. I was invited to speak at conferences, quoted in industry publications, featured in Denver Business Journal's 40 Under 40. But the real victory wasn't professional, it was personal. It was waking up every morning in my own space, making decisions based on my desires, not someone else's. It was the network of female entrepreneurs I'd built, women who understood that sometimes destruction is just the first step of construction. It was the scholarship fund I started for women returning to school after divorce, named after my grandmother, who'd always told me to have my own money. It was the day I ran into Derek at Whole Foods in Cherry Creek, almost 3 years after the accident. He was buying a sad desk salad. I was grabbing champagne for a celebration with my team. He looked defeated, older than his 41 years. "Jennifer," he said, his voice soft. "Could we talk? Just for a minute?" I paused, really looked at him. This man who'd once been my whole world, who'd abandoned me at my lowest moment, who'd chosen a 24-year-old's admiration over 12 years of partnership. "Derek," I said gently, "we have nothing to talk about. I wish you well. I really do. But that chapter is closed." "I made a mistake," he said, the words rushing out. "Leaving you, especially when you were... God, Jennifer, I was such a fool. Melissa was just..." "Derek," I interrupted, "you didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. And honestly, it was the best thing that could have happened to me. Because of your choice, I discovered I didn't need you. I didn't need anyone. I needed myself, and she was there all along, waiting for me to notice her." I left him standing by the organic produce, mouth slightly open, holding his single-serving salad. That night, I hosted a dinner party in my condo. My sister Emma, my trainer Marcus, who'd become one of my best friends, Dr. Martinez and his wife, my business partners, the strong, brilliant women who'd become my chosen family. We toasted to resilience, to transformation, to the beautiful reality that sometimes the worst things that happen to us are actually gifts in disguise. As I stood on my balcony later that evening, looking out at the Denver skyline, I thought about the woman in that ICU bed 3 years ago. Broken body, shattered heart, uncertain future. If I could go back and tell her something, what would it be? I'd tell her, "This pain you're feeling, it's not the end. It's labor pains. You're giving birth to yourself, the real you, the one who's been waiting patiently under layers of compromise and accommodation. Derek leaving isn't your tragedy, it's your liberation. In 3 years, you won't want him back. You'll thank him for leaving because his absence created space for you to expand into the person you were always meant to be." And that's exactly what happened. I didn't plan revenge. I planned resurrection. I didn't focus on proving Derek wrong. I focused on proving myself right. I didn't try to win him back. I won myself back. The truth is, Derek did me the greatest favor of my life when he sent that email from his yoga instructor's apartment while I was learning to breathe again. He thought he was trading up, moving from his injured, ordinary wife to his young, flexible soulmate. What he actually did was release a force he never knew existed. Today, my company has offices in Denver and Boulder. We manage finances for over 50 medical practices across Colorado. I own my condo outright, drive a Tesla I bought with cash, and have an investment portfolio that would make Derek weep. But more than the material success, I have something invaluable: complete autonomy over my life. I date when I want to, interesting men who appreciate a woman with her own success story. I travel where I want to go. Last month, it was Portugal for a financial conference where I was the keynote speaker. I make decisions based on my desires, my goals, my dreams. My sister Emma jokes that Derek should get a finder's fee for helping me discover my potential. She's not entirely wrong. Sometimes the people who hurt us most are our greatest teachers. They show us, through their absence, how much we were diminishing ourselves in their presence. I ran into Melissa last month at a coffee shop in Lodo. She was sitting alone, working on her laptop, probably writing another blog post about manifestation or gratitude. She recognized me, started to look away, then changed her mind and approached. "Jennifer," she said, hesitant, "I owe you an apology." I gestured for her to sit. Up close, without Instagram filters, she looked tired, older than her 27 years. "I was young and stupid," she continued. "I thought what Derek and I had was special. I didn't understand. I didn't understand what it means to build a life with someone, to stand by them through the hard times. I just saw the surface." "You don't owe me an apology, Melissa," I said, meaning it. "You did me a favor. Both of you did. If Derek hadn't left, I'd still be playing small, still be the supporting actress in someone else's story." She looked surprised, then something like relief crossed her face. "He talked about you sometimes," she said quietly, "especially after he saw you at that hotel event. He said leaving you was the biggest mistake of his life." "Maybe it was," I replied, "but it was the best thing that ever happened to mine." We parted cordially, two women who'd learned hard lessons about love, authenticity, and the danger of building your life around someone else's validation. As I write this, it's been 3 years and 4 months since that pickup truck changed the trajectory of my life, not the accident itself, but what came after. The abandonment that became my liberation, the betrayal that became my blessing, the ending that was actually my beginning. Derek sent me a message last week, a long, rambling Facebook message about growth and forgiveness and second chances. I read it, felt nothing, and deleted it. Not out of anger, but out of completeness. That chapter isn't just closed. The entire book has been donated to Goodwill, making space on my shelf for better stories. If you're watching this and you've been betrayed, abandoned, or discarded by someone you loved, I want you to know something. Your pain is valid, but it's not permanent. Your current situation is not your final destination. The person who left you didn't take your future with them. They cleared the path for you to create a better one. Don't focus on revenge. Focus on resurrection. Don't try to prove them wrong. Prove yourself right. Don't beg them to come back. Become someone who would never beg for anyone's presence. Because sometimes the person who breaks your heart is actually setting you free. Sometimes the worst day of your life is preparing you for the best years of your life. And sometimes, just sometimes, the soulmate you really need to find is yourself. If this story resonated with you, if you've been through your own transformation, or you're just starting your journey, please subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, and share this video with someone who needs to hear that there's life, beautiful, successful, autonomous life after betrayal. Because every one of us deserves to write our own success story, regardless of who walked out of the previous chapter.